with the Maple Leafs, I feel like people, I kind of talked about it yesterday, maybe prepare for a underwhelming summer potentially, but do you see Tree Living maybe having something up his sleeve and breaking out some news or making a move that really shocks people? Or you think it's going to kind of be as underwhelming as maybe I'm preparing myself for?
I don't see it right now. All eyes on the John Tavares negotiations. But I'll tell you what, last year, it was a great moment. The Toronto Maple Leafs selecting Ben Danford. Okay, Ben Danford of the Oshawa Generals. Great pick. I think a lot of people thought, this guy's probably going to go somewhere in the second round. The Leafs grab him late in the first. Really solid pick. Had a great season. Hard-hitting defenseman. Maple Leafs are going to really like this guy when they get him / if they get him. And here's why I say that. You're the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. You're probably looking to make moves by way of trade. I know everyone's all excited about Easton Cowan, and rightfully so. They should be. And if I were him, I'd be nervous too. Just like if I'm Ben Danford. Last year was all smiles and put on the jersey and favorite team growing up and all those types of things. But until you make it in the NHL, I was having a conversation with someone about this morning right before I came on with you guys. If you're someone in if you're a prospect in the Maple Leafs organization, it's a lot of sleepless nights until you get there, because this is a team that is win now mode, and it's not as if they have a lot to dangle outside of Easton Cowan, Ben Danford, etc. That's why it can quickly turn into wow, I was drafted by the team I grew up watching and idolizing, and now I just got moved to make room for so-and-so. Because they don't have, the draft capital to play with, and they don't have a very deep prospect pool to play with. So if I'm a Maple Leafs prospect, I'm probably a little bit nervous here as we head into the summer.
It really feels like the calm before the storm. I think a lot of people in Leafs Nation, not so much looking at the draft, but looking at free agency. What are you hearing? You hearing anything attached to the Maple Leafs? We know nobody talks until July 1, of course, but... What?
Nope. None of these things goes. Nope. No one talks. No one chats. It's all on the up and up. Don't know what tampering is. What's a truck? I have no idea. It's funny. One manager I spoke to, just as a side story, you guys will like this. We're having a conversation about tampering, and this manager was saying to me, he said, look, I've never tampered. And I was like, I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. He goes, technically, I've never tampered. I go, well, how did you do it then? And he said, well, I would be talking to an agent, and I'd say things like, yeah, you know what I'm looking for? Looking for like a 6'3" left shot defenseman, maybe 215 pounds, maybe 29 years old, played as junior in Moose Jaw. Like if I could find someone like that, I'd probably go like 4 times 3, probably something like that. I just have a hard time finding that guy. Let me know if any of these guys sort of pops up here. But I'm just sort of scouring, looking for, and try to make it as vague but as deliberate as possible. So I'll throw it to you guys. Is that tampering?
The devil's in the details. Yeah. And
technically, you didn't say the player's name.
True.
Right?
True.
You didn't make any offers. You just said vaguely, oh, this is the size, this is the weight, maybe this is where he played junior, this is how much I might be looking to pay.
Well,
is it tampering if you don't mention the player's name?
No,
I don't think because
and these guys these agents are all they have lawyer backgrounds. That's all about loopholes and the details and the fine print. And if the league wants to put that out there and there's the fine print and you want to walk around it and not touch the rules, you're good to go.
The NHL sent out a memo early this season, and they've reminded teams their eyes open wide about it. They know it happens, of course. But the league, and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly has, gone and reminded everybody about, the penalties if they're found tampering, fines and loss of draft picks, etc. Which is why we're most likely at the end of the era of 1201 there's three guys on a stage with a team backdrop, and they all have jerseys on, and here's these three multi-year, very intricate contracts that are being. I think those days are well in the rearview mirror. So even if you do have an agreement or have a contract, I'm guessing nothing's getting filed at 12:01 on July 1st anymore.
Well, it's funny. I mentioned I was at the Ken Holland presser in LA yesterday, and everybody was asking about Vladislav Gavrikov. I'm like, how's this working? Because he's signing with the New York Rangers. And then the other question was, would you be open to signing a $12 million, $13 million player? I mean, we all know who he's asking about. So, yeah, I think from that standpoint, very, very fascinating to see what happens on Tuesday. Are you a believer in what's swirling around Brad Marchand? Like, if he gets to market, the Maple Leafs have a good shot here.
I think they'll take a swing. I think that their interest goes back a ways here. Like once Brad Marchand became available in and around trade deadline, I don't know 100% that the Maple Leafs were there to make an offer. Like the two teams that I think were the most aggressive were the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars. Dallas, it really didn't matter because he was choosing Florida, just, not unlike, Claude Giroux so many years ago with the Philadelphia Flyers, choosing Florida. So I could see Dallas trying to get back into that mix if indeed he hits free agency. Look, Toronto's going to be in there. I don't think that'll be a surprise to anybody. How do they make it happen? Is it going to take the extra year to make that happen? Perhaps. But as the days go on here, like the way the winds are blowing right now, I think that Sam Bennett resigns with the Florida Panthers. Not because he blurted that out when he was half buckled on stage, but like I think that's just the way that it's going. It's probably always going. He's happy there. They like him. He's enjoyed his best years, and as Bob McCowan, would always say when I worked at the Fan with him, if you're, don't fuck with happy. If you're happy, find a way to stay. Just stay where you are. Find a way to make it work. And this is hand to glove for Sam Bennett with the Florida Panthers. Brad Marchand probably inching that direction too. And the thing, and this is, Rosie, you can weigh in on this one and talk about it with way more authority than me. Part of the attraction of playing in a market like Florida, we make a lot about no tax state, and rightfully so. It is a factor. I'll be honest. But the other thing is that players that I've spoken to will say, like, when you're playing in the winter and somewhere where it's warm, your body just feels so much better. You get off the plane, you're not shivering. You wake up in the morning, you're not like shivering when you go and you start your car to go to practice. Like everything's done in like shorts and flops. And when you're older and you got some bumps and bruises, like it's a much healthier place for your body to be in than anywhere where you're dealing with, snowplows and, flash storms, for example. Like I really do think that's a factor. He's gone from Boston to Florida, and I'm guessing like his body feels great, or I shouldn't say great, as good as someone who's had double hip surgery is going to feel. That's got to be a factor for someone like Brad Marchand. Aaron Ekblad, on the other hand, he may be the odd man out here. And if, of course, you guys just saw the Buffalo-Utah deal and Michael Kesselring, right-hand shot going to the Buffalo Sabres along with Josh Doan for J.J. Peterka, that opens up a right-hand defense slot for someone, perhaps Aaron Ekblad, as I've wondered about a number of different times. I could see, Utah reaching out on July 1st, of course, gentlemen, and pairing them up with Mikhail Sergachev, and that becomes Utah's number one pair. Could see that a mile away.
It's interesting. I kind of hope that Ekblad's not the odd man out so that Toronto gets a crack at Marchand. But as far as where you play, I mean, it's just when you go down there to play and you're like, I'm going to pack my flip-flops, and you come to practice in a T-shirt and shorts. It's everything. Like I had a bad back this past year. Wasn't sure if I could go on this golf trip. We went to Phoenix, and I got down there. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm thrilled. My back hasn't felt this good in weeks. And literally
it's
getting into the Calgary airport, going to my car, it started to seize up again. And it's tough because in those cold markets and the dog days of January and February, it takes a lot to get moving. And it's not just that, like you're on the beach, the sun's hitting your face, like what that does to your
Vitamin D.
mood and your mental health. Like you could
I
be
know.
trapped in Vancouver. Like what's a problem there? It's being in that soggy, dreary drizzle for 3 weeks straight. Like you can get depressed. Your mind starts to run away
Yep.
with you. The stress starts to add up. And I mean, with a pro hockey player and everything that's on their mind and on their plate,
Yeah.
that plays a factor. And guys who went down to Florida, you just feel good. I mean, there's a reason people vacation there. It's to get away from what they have to do every single day and get a reset going. So there's so many factors that would keep a guy there. The one thing that Toronto does have, though, is if you come here and win, I'm sorry, the Panthers, they had their parade and it's great. And they're like this dynasty right now in a sense. Some people get mad at that, but fuck, they are in the cap era. And it's kind of come and gone. And you saw the TV ratings that they had in Toronto, man. You come here and you win. Like when people come here, they're like, holy crap, am I ever excited to see what can happen here? Because it'll change your life if you win a cup there. I know no one's done it in a long time, but it's fuck, you win there, man. You are, I mean, there's a reason Marner used the word gods. It's crazy up there.
You're 100% right, and the best example I always, whenever we sort of talk about like what happens to your career if you would win in Toronto, I always say like, go back and look at the 1967 team, and I don't want to name any names, but they're obvious. Go back to the 1967 team and count how many players who shouldn't be in the Hockey Hall of Fame are in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Because they won in Toronto, because they did it in Toronto, on the biggest stage, in front of the most people, period. You're 100% right. You know, like the conversation quickly turns to let's start going to measure the bridges to see where the floats are going to fit underneath, and start polishing up some new plaques at Yonge and Front Street for the Hockey Hall of Fame. Because you're right, you do it in Toronto, you set yourself up for life. But the flip side is, if you don't, it can be awful, and that's the risk you take. Now, Brad Marchand's already got 2 Stanley Cups in his hip pocket. What does he want to do? Do you want to go for a third get a third Stanley Cup in his career with the Florida Panthers in a place where his body feels great, or chase like the ultimate immortality?
Immortal
win
status.
It with the Toronto Mays. It's complete immortal status. Again, go look at those 67 guys. You guys know hockey. Go look at the 67 team. See how many guys are in the Hall of Fame, and you go, huh? It's more than a few.
Big deal.
Yep.
I'm sure that's weighing on the mind too of John Tavares to a degree as well with his future. Where do you see that going in the next couple of days, or John Tavares?
To my previous point about Bob McCown and effing with Happy, he loves it there. His family's there. Roots are deep. Whether it's Toronto, whether it's family in Oakville, all of it. Like he's a dyed-in-the-wool Toronto person. It's where he wants to raise a family. I understand the idea of, chasing it somewhere else, but the Maple Leafs want him there. He wants to be there. I'm considering the Maple Leafs situation right now with what they have available up front. I have a hard time believing that John Tavares is not going to be a Maple Leaf come July 1st. There's a path there for both, right?
I think Pierre LeBrun mentioned
it's just deadline.
Pierre LeBrun mentioned that, I mean, there's all these numbers thrown around. I feel like they lowballed him pretty good to start with, but he says he'd think he'd do 4 years at $5 million. Like, it seems reasonable for everybody. In a couple of years, if he slots down to that 3C and the cap goes up to 113 or 14, all of a sudden that's a reasonable number for a 3C.
I agree.
Like, I just want this thing to get done, man. I'm worried about that. And on the other side, you talk about guys approaching July 1, like Matthew Nyes. He's, they want to change the DNA and they want to get these guys in. And talking about Brad Marchand, well, Matthew Nyes is like tailor-made what they want. A guy that's a workhorse with skill, loves being in the market, just constantly getting better, potential through the roof. Can they get this guy done? Like, we're starting to look at, he doesn't want to get offer sheeted, but is it going to get done before July 1?
Okay, so here's the thing. This is interesting. This is the byproduct, I think, of the previous regime, and this is Kyle Dubas, not beating anybody up coming off of the ELC. And maybe that's why in Toronto, like Kyle Dubas had a very specific way of operating. He wanted his players to feel comfortable. I understand that. Like that's why you talk to anybody who's ever worked with Kyle Dubas, for Kyle Dubas, they'll say the same thing. Love working with him. Like you talk to any of his staff, love working with Kyle Dubas. The one thing, like sometimes like your positives can end up being a negative in some situations. You know, long term, did Dubas need to have that fight with someone? Like, did he need to beat someone up coming off the entry level deal? His thought was, we can pay them what they want, keep them happy. The salary cap was always going up, and the salary cap would accommodate it, and we wouldn't get hurt. And then COVID happened, and then everything changed. Like the Maple Leafs are probably the team that was hurt the most by the pandemic, because A, how do you plan for a pandemic? And B, everything that they did was predicated on the cap continuing to rise and their salary cap not looking like the Gordian knot that it turned into because of it. But I think what you're seeing now, Rosie, is this is Brad Treliving, who's not going to be shy about saying he's a restricted free agent. You know, we have a hammer here. We have a hammer, and we're going to use our hammer. Maybe not like Jarmo Kekalainen would with the Columbus Blue Jackets, but this is still advantage team. And maybe just being in Toronto, Maple Leafs fans aren't used to that. But that's what's happening.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.